Well, happy Monday. It's good to be back. I had to take care of some family visiting last week. Now that that's over with, I'm back going to my day job and I'm coming back to my hobby of doing crappy YouTube videos and Rumble videos. That being said, we gotta talk about this case coming out of California. It's I don't think it's a good case. I think this might be a good case for the Supreme Court to rule. But basically, California passed a law that allows them to share personal information of gun owners within their state to researchers to study gun violence. I don't think you need to give out someone's address, their name, into order to study gun violence. But there was a case. I saw this at Ground News. California can share gun owners' personal information with researchers. Appeals court rules. So they passed this law. There was a lawsuit. I think there's two lawsuits going on. They got forget what the word is, but they got it. The law blocked. The state went to appeal it and won the appeal, and now California gun owners have no right to privacy when it comes to researching companies that studying gun violence. Now, there's a way to give them the information without identifying them, like their addresses, their names. I think in Texas, while it is public record for people that have concealed handgun permits, since it comes from the government, which makes it public, but that is not open to the public to get that information from. That's actually blocked. They could say X amount of people in this county have permits, but you're not going to be able to break it down to be able to identify someone. But California made it to where if you're a research company, you could request this access and you'll get their address, their date of birth, their name, anything to identify them, which could be leaked to the public and which may cause an altercation to where that person might have to use their weapon in self-defense. That's my fear, that they're going to be rabid protesters out in front of someone's house and they'll feel the need to protect themselves, and now that gun owner is going to jail for the rest of their life because they were put in a position from the government, California government, or government of California, to where they just wanted to live in peace, put it that way. But according to the left, California State appeals a court that has ruled that research studies to gun violence can continue to receive personal information of gun owners, reversing a previous decision that deemed that the data sharing is the violation of privacy rights. I agree with that. It is the violation of privacy rights. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law in 2021, allowing the Department of Justice to share identifying information over 4 million gun owners with qualified research institutions to aid their studies of gun violence. However, researchers are not allowed to release any identifying information of gun owners. But the fact that they have it in the first place, which could lead to a leak, which has happened before, I think in California. The recent ruling overrules a temporary block of the law, emphasizes the state's interest in studying and preventing gun violence. You don't need someone's name. You don't need someone's address. You don't need to be able to identify someone in the research department to study gun violence. Now, if you want to study and prevent gun violence, prosecute criminals. Go into the poverty-stricken neighborhoods or cities, prop them up, have businesses come to the hood and prop those people up financially. There's I don't know who did this study. There's probably been many studies, but poverty is one of the leading causes of gun violence. or just gang violence because people don't see an opportunity to better themselves. So they go to the gang street, which allows you to make a lot of cash really quickly. But there's a shelf life before you get replaced or sent to prison for the rest of your life. But if you were to have opportunities outside of that, then you're going to see people better themselves and actually build generational wealth that actually rises everybody's standard of living to where they wouldn't go towards that certain block. Now, it's not guaranteed, and they're saying it's a leading one of the leading causes, but it's not the only cause. Of course, according to the center, California State Appeal reverses lower court, allowing shared gun owners for personal information researchers to study, blah, blah, blah. It's very much the same thing. The court ruling seen as a victory for science as researchers can resume using the data to better understand and prevent gun violence. How does knowing my address help you to understand and prevent gun violence? Now, these are law-abiding citizens. Let's see here. Bias insights. The left emphasized the lawsuit brought by gun owners and organizations, while the right does not mention it. The center portrays the verdict as a victory for science, an angle not strongly emphasized in the left. There's a little bit more information, but I'm going to go ahead and read this from Spectrum One News, or Spectrum News One. Here. Let's see here. By the Associated Press, Sacramento, published 7:22 p.m. Pacific time, November 21st. So this article is rather old. I saw this when I was visiting with family. Let's see here. Does it say who wrote it? Does not say who wrote it. That's a shame. Sacramento, California AP, State Appeal Court ruled California can continue providing information, personal information of gun owners to researchers to study gun violence, reversing last year's decision by a lower court judge who said such data sharing violates privacy rights. What do you need to know? Ruling on Friday reverses a decision by a judge last year. Gun owners and firearm organizations sued the state, saying the law violates their privacy rights, which I agree. The appeals court found that the lower court failed to consider the state's interests in preventing gun violence and ordered the decision to be reversed. Well, we have to round up all the people that voted for person X for the interests of the state's interests in preventing that person from being elected. See how that could be turned? See how the wording of that could be turned? I mean, we have to round up all the white people because they're causing more of the violence. So we got to stop the violence. In order to stop the violence, we have to arrest the white man. Don't you want to reduce violence? And don't you want to consider that maybe that we remove the white man, our violence will be reduced? I mean, that's how one way to interpret it. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but I think I'm making the point clear. Let's see here. In 2021, Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law allowing the State Department of Justice to share identifying information of more than 40 million gun owners in California with qualified research institutions to help them better study gun violence, accidents, and suicide. The information which the state collects with every firearm sales to perform background checks includes names, addresses, phone numbers, and any criminal records, among other things. So you're also going to have the phone number so this researcher can call and harass these people or post their number out into the interwebs for people to harass them. Now, according to the story, they're prevented from doing so, but what's actually preventing them from leaking it out to the internet? What's preventing them from doxing these people? If people feel strongly enough and they don't fear a prison sentence or the repercussions, nothing's going to prevent them from leaking said information. Especially if they strongly believe that they're against private gun ownership. Let's see here. Which includes, blah, blah, I already read that. Under the law, researchers can use the information and make their findings public, but cannot release any identifying information of gun owners. Well, one way to prevent them from releasing any identifying information of gun owners is the states to prevent them from getting such information. That's just my opinion on this. In response, gun owners and organizations sued the state, arguing that the disclosure of their information violates their privacy rights. San Diego County Superior Court Judge Catherine Bauckham ruled to temporarily block the law last October, but on Friday, a three-judge panel of California Courts of Appeal for the 4th District found that the lower court failed to consider the state's interest in studying and preventing gun violence in its analysis before halting the law. Considered state's interest in studying and preventing gun violence in its analysis before halting the law. So we're just going to ignore privacies. We're going to ignore rights of individuals because of the betterment of the state's ability to study and prevent gun violence. Who's to say that they won't use this for something else? Who's to say that we don't want Trump to be voted in? So we're going to look at everybody who voted for Trump last election and prevent them from voting. Because the state's interest is to prevent Trump from ever being president again. It's very, very hyperbolic, but I can see where this can go. Not saying it will go here, but a possibility that might go there. Because it's the state's interest to prevent Trump to be president. We must not give him power back because he's worse than Hitler and all that good stuff, allegedly. But there's actually people who believe that. But if he was worse than Hitler, then he would still be president right now. Just saying. Let's see here. But on Friday, Associated Justice Julie C. Kelly sent the case back to the lower court and said that the preliminary injunction must be reversed because of the state's interest in studying and preventing gun violence. Trump's gun owners' personal privacy to remain private. That information is no longer private. It's going to be released to researchers, and we're going to have to trust the researching firms to not release personal information. Well, let's see here. The data sharing law is among several gun measures in California that are being legally challenged. In October, a federal judge overturned the state's 3-decade-old ban on assault weapons, again ruling that if the law violates constitutional rights. California Attorney General Rob Bonta said once the data sharing ruling is implemented, the state will resume providing this information to researchers. The court's decision is a victory in our ongoing effort to prevent gun violence. How does releasing people's personal information prevent gun violence? This is a legitimate question. How does a law-abiding citizen participating in their Second Amendment, how does a researcher knowing where that person lives and being able to reach them by phone enables or prevents gun violence? That's a legitimate question I have. He added that the law serves an important goal to enable researchers that support informed policy making aimed at reducing and preventing firearm violence. But how does knowing someone's phone number, a way to contact them, the way to send them mail, create an informed policy making? How does that help you in your policy making? I'm generally asking because I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe neighborhood base, you could go that far down, but when you go to the address, I mean, the way to contact them, a researcher can call them up saying, I'm with ABC Researching Company. I got your information because you recently bought 3 firearms, and I'd like to know more about that. That's kind of creepy. I'm just saying. Garen Wintemute, who directed the California Firearm Violence Research Center at the University of California, Davis cheered the recent ruling. Cheered the recent ruling to know personal information. Why do they want to have personal information? Why is that such an important thing for them to have? That's what I want to know. The center has been working with the state on studying gun violence. The court decision is an important victory for science. Withenwood said in a statement, for more than 30 years, researchers at UC Davis and elsewhere had to use the data in question to conduct vital research that simply could not be done anywhere else. We're glad to be able to return to that important work, which will improve health and safety here in California and across the country. How does knowing someone's name, phone number, address help you to prevent gun violence? That's why I want to know. I want to know how a law-abiding citizen's personal information prevents gun violence. It's a simple question, which I don't think I'm going to get an answer for. They never tell you how that information is being used and why that information is needed. None of the stories I clicked on gave a justification for why they need that information. I think that should where all these laws should start is, especially when it deals with privacy, is why does a researcher need to know my name, my phone number, my address? How does knowing that improve gun violence safety or prevent gun violence? That's what I want to know. I'm definitely against this law. I'm definitely against the wording that was cited about this. The state's interests failed to consider the state's interest in studying and preventing gun violence. That is a very dangerous counter argument to why this should be allowed. It failed to consider the state's interest in studying and preventing gun violence so that your rights don't matter. That's pretty much what these judges told everyone in California, the 4 million gun owners, that their right to privacy doesn't matter because the state's interest in studying and preventing gun violence trumps their right to privacy. Hopefully, none of their information gets leaked online. Hopefully, they don't have to use self-defense, which I don't even think California has a self-defense law. If it is, it's been neutered because you can't defend yourself against people in California. I may be wrong. I may be hyperbolic, but that's my sentiment. That is my video for today. Hopefully I could get the answer to why research firms need personal information to better study and prevent gun violence. Hopefully someone can answer that question in the comments down below. But with that being said, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.